It's hard to imagine Antarctica as anything other than a freezing, lifeless landscape that has been like that since forever, thanks to the most popular photos of the place. However, that mental image is also due to what we have all been told about the continent. A handful of truth seekers, including prominent author Graham Hancock, have been revealing what Antarctica really is, even though their opinions are furiously opposed. What is the real truth about Antarctica, and what has Hancock found out about it? In this video, we join Graham Hancock as he reveals the truth about Antarctica. Antarctica is one of the most interesting places on the planet, although you must be a hardy soul to find that out for yourself. For starters, this place is crucial to global climate processes because it's an essential component of the Earth's heat balance. The heat balance, also known as the energy balance, is the relationship between how much solar heat is absorbed by the Earth's atmosphere and how much heat is reflected back into space. Antarctica plays a larger role in maintaining Earth's heat balance than most other continents, so anywhere you are in the world, you're feeling the effect of the cold place. Ice reflects more light than land or water surfaces. The vast Antarctic ice sheet reflects a significant amount of solar radiation away from the Earth's surface. The reflectivity of the Earth's surface decreases as glacial ice cover decreases. This allows more incoming solar radiation to be absorbed by the Earth's surface, resulting in an unequal heat balance associated with global warming. The current phase of climate change and the waters around Antarctica are an important component of the ocean conveyor belt, a global system in which water circulates around the globe based on density and current. Antarctic bottom water, the cold water surrounding Antarctica, are so dense that they push up against the ocean floor. Warmer waters rise or upwell as a result of the Antarctic bottom water. Antarctic upwelling is so powerful that it aids in the movement of water around the entire planet. Strong winds that circumnavigate Antarctica aid in this movement. Earth's waters would not circulate in a balanced and efficient manner without the assistance of the oceans surrounding Antarctica. One of the published works that revealed the truth is by Graham Hancock in his book titled Fingerprints of the Gods, The Evidence of Earth's Lost Civilization. Hancock expounds on several groundbreaking theories about Antarctica, even though they are opposed by mainstream scientists. This is one of the ugly truths about science that is often hidden from the public: politics and science. This kind of scientific thinking often influences the results of research. In his tell-all book, Hancock covers the details of a number of old maps drawn up during the 1500s that depict parts of South America that were unknown to Europeans at the time. More intriguingly, they depicted the Antarctic coast as it appears beneath the ice. This was before men discovered Antarctica, and seismic surveys revealed what lay beneath the ice. The first map is known as the Piri-Reis map and is the most well-known and controversial. This is because it threatens to upend everything we've been told about Antarctica. For example, one explorer, James Cook, passed through the Antarctic Circle in 1773. Cook and his crew discovered land that had previously been unknown. While this expedition is still considered the first discovery of the continent, the Piri-Reis map shows that that was not the case. The map was first discovered in Istanbul, Turkey, while cataloging the content of Istanbul's Topkapi Palace Library. German theologian Gustav Dyson and the palace director discovered bundles of maps and charts hidden among piles of discarded materials. He quickly recognized the significance of this discovery and brought it to an expert. It was immediately recognized as the Piri-Reis map, so named after the medieval cartographer Piri-Reis, who signed the bottom. What the map appeared to identify, however, was even more intriguing: Antarctica. In addition to the usual land masses, Antarctica was present. However, the continent had only recently been discovered, so what was it doing on a map from 1513? Ottoman Turkish admiral, geographer, and cartographer Piri-Reis created a map of the world as it was known at the time in 1513. Piri explained in an inscription that the chart was based on about 20 other maps, including some drawn by Christopher Columbus in the New World, in Portuguese, Spanish, and Arabic. Piri presented the map, along with several other maps and charts, to Ottoman Sultan Selim in 1517. Because it was based on multiple other charts, The Sultan thought it was one of the most complete maps in the world at the time. The Piri Reis map is drawn on parchment made from gazelle skin. The map, which measures approximately 35 by 24 inches, is currently in pieces, but the surviving pieces depict various parts of the world as they appeared to cartographers back in 1513. Along with most of the usual plots of land, the Piri Reis map includes one that is particularly interesting. The map shows the northern coast of Antarctica along the bottom. However, almost all historians agree that the continent was not discovered until 1733. Even more intriguing, the continent is connected to South America and is not covered in ice. Captain Lorenzo W. Burroughs, a United States Air Force captain with a background in cartography, confirms the accuracy of the depiction of Antarctica and that it depicts the continent before it was covered in ice. And while some scientists may balk at Antarctica being linked to South America, another historian has an explanation for why the two places are linked on the Piri Reis map. Burroughs' letter was addressed to Dr. Charles Hapgood, a professor and historian who explained that in the past, coastlines were exaggerated in size to make details easier to see. Coastal accuracy was frequently overlooked in the name of these details, resulting in continents that appeared more connected. The other map Hancock talks about is the Orontes Phineas map, which also shows Antarctica as ice-free. This is another very ancient world map drawn by unknown people who were able to use technology that we consider to be only available in the modern day. A close examination of the map reveals that the creators knew the exact circumference of the Earth to within 50 miles. The coastlines and islands depicted in Antarctica must have been navigated prior to 4000 BC, when these areas were free of ice from the previous ice age. According to Piri Reis's own commentary, some of his source maps date back to Alexander the Great's reign in 332 BC. Now, a comparison of the Orontes Phineas map with the map of Antarctica's subglacial land surfaces, produced by survey teams from various nations during the International Geophysical Year, 1958, explains what some people claim are shortcomings of the ice-free Antarctica depicted by Orontes Phineas. However, in 1959, Hapgood discovered an authentic map in the Library of Congress that immediately dispelled his doubts. A map of what was certainly Antarctica, done in 1531 by the French cartographer Orontes Phineas, also known as Orontes Phineas. Even the most skeptical are shocked by the Orontes Phineas map, even though it was printed in a book in 1531 and thus was not subject to subsequent amendment. It is strikingly similar to modern Antarctic maps. Sure, there is the argument that it's too close to South America's tip, but the proportions are similar. The coastal mountains discovered in a 1957 geophysical study are roughly in the right places, as are many bays and rivers. Furthermore, the shape of South America is correct, and there is a striking resemblance between a modern scientifically exact map of the Ross Sea and Phineas's unnamed gulf. But the Orontes Phineas map remarkably does not show the great ice shelves that now surround the continent, nor the great glaciers that fringe the coastal regions. Instead, there appear to be estuaries and inlets, implying large rivers. That means that at some point in the past, the Ross Sea and its coasts, the site of the November 1979 air disaster on Mount Erebus, and some of Antarctica's hinterland were free of ice. It also proves that because Antarctica was undoubtedly icebound in 1531 when Orontes Phineas made his map, the mapper must have had access to very ancient maps made when Antarctica was largely free of the mighty thick ice cap that now engulfs it and has presumably covered it for millennia. There's also the perplexing question of the Orontes Phineas map to contend with. Even if Piri Reis's Antarctica is South America or even Australia, Phineas's Antarctica is unmistakably Antarctica, and his map was also drawn in the 16th century, 1531. So where did Orontes Phineas get his far more detailed and accurate information from? Was it the Alexandrian library now submerged beneath the waves? Also, why does Phineas depict Antarctica without an ice cap? In addition, Hapgood's team identified 50 geographical points on the reprojected Phineas map whose latitudes and longitudes were located quite accurately in latitude and longitude, some of which are quite close to the pole. The mathematical probability of this being an accident is astronomical. The Ross Sea is another piece of evidence. Today, it is fed by massive glaciers forming a floating ice shelf hundreds of feet thick. Nonetheless, both this map and the Ross map show estuaries and rivers. Core samples were done in 1949 to collect samples of the ice and sediment at the bottom of the Ross Sea. They clearly showed several layers of stratification, indicating that the area experienced numerous environmental changes. Some of the sediments were of the type that rivers typically transport to the sea. Tests performed by the Carnegie Institute in Washington, D.C., which dated radioactive elements found in seawater, dated the sediment at around 4000 B.C., implying that the area was ice-free and had flowing rivers at the time, exactly what is recorded on the Race and Oronteus Phineas maps, most likely from the Alexandrian Library. All of these mapmakers drew on old maps that they had compiled. Piri Reis, for example, had access to Constantinople's imperial library, which is likely where he obtained the sources for his map. And another amazing aspect of these old maps is that they frequently show locations in South America, for example, with precise longitude and latitude. So how did this end up on not one, but at least 4 maps? Either our knowledge of human history on this planet is incorrect, or our understanding of our planet's development is incorrect. There were highly developed civilizations on Earth that we are ignoring because it does not fit into the established norm. All the ancient maps that predated these and were used as references were done by alien cartographers or someone drawing our planet from the air. However, Hancock's takeaway from these maps is as follows. Whatever source maps Piri Reis and others used had to have been created by a sophisticated seafaring civilization that had explored the world and understood how to project longitude and latitude. What is most amazing is that these sailors, mathematicians, charted Antarctica when it was not completely covered in ice. That, in a nutshell, is their civilization, extremely old. Hancock also addresses another ancient subject that has been just as mysterious. He devotes 10 chapters to the Incan and pre-Incan civilizations, including the Nazca Lines, the incredible complex at Lake Titicaca, and the tradition that links these to a bearded culture bringer, the Viracocha, who came from the sea. More chapters describe Central American cultures, including their obsession with numbers, calculating exact dates in the distant past and future, and predicting the end of the world, including by human sacrifice. They're also accomplished astronomers. The Teotihuacan Pyramid Complex, for example, appears to have been designed as a scale model of the solar system. Hancock also touches on Egyptian history. There are numerous things to take note of. Here are a few examples. The ancient Egyptian civilization appears to have appeared out of nowhere as a high civilization, complete with myths, history, engineering, and a boat obsession. Overall, its history has been one of gradual decline and loss of knowledge rather than a scheduled accumulation. Hancock points out that the Giza pyramids do not match the pyramids that were supposed to have been built immediately before and after them. They are far more robust and sophisticated than the alternatives. The point is, if we accept the accepted chronology, the Egyptians built some relatively low-quality pyramids, then some amazingly good ones a few generations later, before returning to building relatively low-quality pyramids again. It's a roller coaster of technological advancement. Hancock contends that the Giza pyramids are much older than previously thought. They were constructed using knowledge or technology that was later lost. The mediocre pyramids are attempts to replicate the ones at Giza. Hancock writes that Robert Bauval's evidence showed that the 3 pyramids at Giza were an unbelievably precise terrestrial map of the 3 stars of Orion's belt, accurately reflecting the angles between each of them and even providing some indication of their individual magnitudes. Furthermore, this map extended north and south to include several other structures on the Giza Plateau. The Giza monuments were arranged in such a way that they provided a picture of the skies as they appeared, and only as they appeared, around the year 10,450 BC. The Great Pyramid of Giza has a 2p ratio between its original height and its circumference. This supports the theory that it was meant to represent a star or a circle. The height-to-base circumference ratio of Teotihuacan's Pyramid of the Sun is 4p. Both of these pyramids had to have an unusual angle of slope to achieve this, 52 degrees for Giza and 43.5 degrees for Teotihuacan. So, it appears to have been deliberate. Pi was allegedly not calculated correctly until Archimedes in the 3rd century BC, but it appears the ancient Egyptians and Mexicans were aware of it. Hancock's point is that people on both sides of the Atlantic inherited their incredible engineering, mathematical, and astronomical knowledge from older sources or civilizations. He believes it was the same seafaring civilization that mapped Antarctica. This impression is reinforced by the Egyptian obsession with boats, as well as the Incan legends that claim all knowledge came from the sea. Hancock contends that a highly advanced civilization existed well before 10,000 BC. However, he doesn't say whether these people were taught by alien spirits or something else. This leaves us with a problem. Where was this civilization? Normally, advanced civilizations do not emerge until a critical mass of arable land is reached. In a nutshell, a continent. Hancock believes he has found a solution to this problem. He believes there was one such mass of land, but it was destroyed by a cataclysm. And now we get to the really interesting part of his thesis. The mythology surrounding ancient cataclysms is universal. Hancock's book devotes 4 chapters to this subject alone. Flood myths, for example, are widespread in most cultures. However, they also record earthquakes, fire falling from the sky, the sun not rising for an extended period of time, or an endless winter. Hancock delves into myths from the following cultures in depth: Aztec, Sumerian, Greek, Inuit, Chinese, Southeast Asian, Pacific, Indian, Egyptian, Mayan, Norse. Some cultures, for example, the Aztecs and the Hopi, believe that natural disasters occur at regular intervals and that each one ushers in a new age of the world. Hancock believes that these myths are historical records, with all the usual caveats about them becoming garbled and so forth, of a period of geologic upheaval in human history. He writes that Hapgood developed this geological theory, which Albert Einstein supported. It suggests that our planet's 30-mile-thick lithosphere completely slipped over its nearly 8,000-mile-thick central core, forcing large parts of the Western Hemisphere southward towards the equator and then to the Antarctic Circle. This movement is viewed as pivoting around the central plains of what is now the United States, rather than following a straight north to south meridian. As a result, the northeastern segment of North America, where the North Pole was previously located in Hudson's Bay, and large parts of Siberia, which were dragged into the Arctic Circle, were dragged southwards out of the Arctic Circle. Hapgood's model in the southern hemisphere depicts the land mass now known as Antarctica, much of which was previously at temperate or even warm latitudes, being shifted entirely inside the Antarctic Circle. The overall movement is thought to have been in the region of 30 degrees or about 2,000 miles, and concentrated primarily between the years 14,500 BC and 12,500 BC, but with massive aftershocks on a planetary scale, continuing at widely separated intervals, down to about 9,500 BC. According to Hancock's theory, the survivors of this advanced civilization that once existed in what is now Antarctica fled their homeland, taking their science with them. They moved to other parts of the world and attempted to rebuild. Hancock also believes that they deliberately planted myths and cults in order to preserve knowledge and draw people's attention to the precessional cycle of the constellations, in order to warn them. They believe that geological disasters like this happened in cycles, in tandem with celestial events. He believes that this is why the pyramids were built, for example. Another popular idea is that climate change is causing the ice in Antarctica to melt. However, scientists have found evidence that the opposite is the case in some parts of the continent. Scientists from NASA and the British Antarctic Survey reported the first direct evidence of significant changes in Antarctic sea ice drift caused by changing wind, and to blame for observed increases in Antarctic sea ice cover over the last 2 decades. The findings help to explain why, in contrast to the dramatic sea ice losses reported in the Arctic, Antarctic sea ice cover has increased as a result of climate change. Even though this might come as a shock to many people who have been following popular science, Ron Kwok of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, and Paul Holland of the Natural Environment Research Council's British Antarctic Survey in Cambridge, UK, used maps created by JPL from more than 5 million individual daily ice motion measurements. The data collected by 4 U.S. defense meteorological satellites over a 19-year period show long-term changes in sea ice drift around Antarctica for the first time. This analysis of direct satellite observations demonstrates the complexities of climate change. The total Antarctic sea ice cover is slowly increasing, but individual regions are experiencing much larger gains and losses that almost cancel each other out. Changes in ice drift also indicate significant changes in the ocean surrounding Antarctica, which is extremely sensitive to the cold and salty water produced by sea ice growth. Strong northward winds are constantly blowing sea ice away from Antarctica. This ice drift has changed since 1992, and in some areas, the export of ice away from Antarctica has more than doubled, while in others, it has decreased significantly. Sea ice plays an important role in the Earth's environment by reflecting sunlight and providing a habitat for marine life. During the late summer, sea ice cover is at its lowest at both poles. During the Antarctic winter freeze, however, this ice cover expands to an area roughly twice the size of Europe. The ice insulates the warm ocean from the frigid atmosphere above, with thicknesses ranging from less than a meter to several meters. This new study also helps to explain why observed changes in sea ice cover in the two polar regions are so disparate in recent decades. The Arctic has experienced dramatic ice loss, while the Antarctic's overall ice extent has increased slightly. This small Antarctic increase, however, is the result of much larger regional increases and decreases, which are now being attributed to wind-driven changes. Increased northward winds have caused the sea ice cover to spread outwards from Antarctica in some places. The Arctic Ocean, on the other hand, is surrounded by land, so changes in winds cannot cause Arctic ice to expand in the same way. Now, much has been said about Antarctica, but what does it feel like to live there? Antarctica is actually a culturally distinct place, best defined by daily life at its various research stations. McMurdo Station is a U.S. research facility located on the southern tip of Ross Island, which is claimed by New Zealand. McMurdo is Antarctica's largest station, with a capacity of 1,250 residents. The majority of these residents are not scientists, but rather help with station operations, construction, maintenance, and day-to-day life. McMurdo has over 80 buildings and functions like a small city. It has world-class laboratory and research facilities, as well as a fire station, dormitories, shops, and, for the cash-loving crowd, the continent's only ATM. Yes, money finds its way to Antarctica. However, it is one thing to have cash, and it is another to have something to buy with it, So, how do supplies get to Antarctica? McMurdo, like all Antarctic research stations, has a specific method of receiving supplies. Cargo ships bring over 5 million kilograms or 11 million pounds of equipment and supplies once a year, ranging from trucks and tractors to dry and frozen foods and scientific instruments. These cargo ships can only reach McMurdo's harbor during the summer, when the pack ice can be broken through by U.S. Coast Guard icebreakers, and when the weather plays nice. Additional supplies and personnel are flown in from Christchurch, New Zealand. Argentina has a presence here too. Its largest Antarctic facility, Base Esperanza, is located in Hope Bay at the tip of the Antarctic Peninsula. The station is famous for a number of firsts in Antarctica. Emilio Marcos Palmer, the first person born in Antarctica, was born there. Base Esperanza also houses the continent's first Catholic chapel and school, and Base Esperanza became the continent's first shortwave radio broadcaster in 1979, connecting Argentina's continental territory with the research station. You might, however, be attracted to Australia's busiest scientific station, Davis Station, located in the Vestfold Hills, an ice-free area. Food is very important at this station, as it is at most research stations in Antarctica. And there is a reason for this. Residents live and work in close quarters and facilities and outdoor settings that are frequently monotonous. As a result, food plays an important role in providing variety to Davis Station residents. However, food supplies are extremely limited. Davis Station's food supply is rationed per person per year. For a year, you will have to rely primarily on frozen and canned foods. The chef is widely regarded as one of the most influential people at Davis Station. He or she must ensure that all commodities are used in a creative and sustainable manner. The chef's creations are central to some of the station's most important events, such as the midwinter dinner, a traditional sumptuous feast first celebrated during the 1901 to 1904 British Antarctic expedition. Davis Station, like many of Antarctica's research facilities, has a hydroponic greenhouse. The practice of growing plants solely with water and nutrients is known as hydroponics. Because produce is grown without soil in hydroponics, excellent gardeners are required. But the addition of fresh produce to Antarctic meals adds variety and nutrition. The greenhouse also serves as a sunroom for residents who are deprived of sunlight, particularly during the long winter months. Let's hear what you think of Hancock's theory on Antarctica in the comments section below.